I want the Chinese government to prove he's alive. I want to meet him immediately.
Expose this.
How can I live?
He lied.
I cried.
Genocide of the Uyghurs.
Am I misbehaving that much that you think I'll go to prison?
I wanted to start with Rayhan. Do you have a message about what we can do and how we can get involved?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer that public opinion can make huge difference in all sorts of atrocities and repression. We have great examples of Greta Thunberg and Malala, and these are teenagers that made difference. It showed the power of one voice and one person. And recently in the UK, there was a teenager as well. Like she saw what Mulan is, or what the message Mulan embodied. So she forged this protest through Twitter. And she didn't even have like massive followers. She only had like 240 followers. But then it got retweeted, I believe, 1,000 times. And 100 teenagers showed up in London to protest against the Chinese government's crimes against humanity. Technology can be used as a positive form to make a difference. So why not use the platform we have at our fingertips? We need you. We need your support, and your voice matter, and make it matter. And on behalf of all the Uyghur people, I can say, we're waiting you to join and make your voice heard and make truly impact, because you can.
What role do you think young people can play in terms of what they can do in order to try and help people like your brother Ekpar and you, as well as the whole of the Uyghur community?
People can reach out to me directly. I'm very active on Twitter and Instagram, and say like, I want to hold your brother's picture and protest, or I want to invite several friends of mine and hold your brother's picture, Ekpar, because he's like a tech entrepreneur. Like, he could be somebody that, inspires me. He ended up in concentration camps. Teenagers would reach out to me and either like through video, say like, I learned about this case, it touched me, and I demand the Chinese government to cease its repression. Enough is enough. While I'm not a big fan of TikTok, but if you're ever going to use it, this has to be the purpose. We have seen cases of a teenager who used very creative makeup to tell the stories of what's happening to Uyghur people. If you're a dancer, for instance, if you're a hip hop dancer, come together and dance. And that could be freedom dance. And the message is like, let's end the repression against the Uyghur people. It could go viral and then reach millions. And then we can create a movement rather than a moment. And that's what we need. And I would love to work with you together. We come up with solutions. We come up creative ways to amplify the voices of the voiceless in these concentration camps.
As both of you are lawyers, and you obviously have great expertise within the legal system, do you think that the solution will come about through this means? Do you think it would rather come about through public protest and movements like you were describing?
The truth is, it's probably a combination. The most powerful form of protest and to make a difference in this case would be public awareness. Where we can make a difference is in our consumer habits, but also in our supply chains and how our businesses, source their materials and product. The U.S. has taken some steps to block materials coming from the Xinjiang region. Things that are coming from Xinjiang are probably produced by forced labor or slavery at this point. And so it's so important for us as consumers to put pressure to make sure that our businesses are transparent about where our products are coming from. For younger people, it's so important what Rayhan was saying about using our social media for the good, because it's a double-edged sword, as we know, and these TikTok videos really made a difference.
Briefly, how international brands are profiting off this genocide. Would you be able to give an example of some of these brands?
So the Australian Institute, they came out with a report on all the brands profiting, which include major brands. It appears that major brands like, even, Amazon, H&M, Apple, Nike, it appears that they have some tainted supply chains where they need to either reveal, be more transparent about where their materials are coming from, or they're directly benefiting off of this. Virtually the entire apparel industry or fashion industry has been in some ways affected, since cotton is largely sourced from this area. And even Disney, as Rayhan mentioned, in Mulan, they in the credits they thank the bureau that's responsible for, I think, establishing these camps in Xinjiang.
Most problematic for this film is that it was filmed in Xinjiang when these mass atrocities are happening. And whenever you film in a country, of course you're gonna need government permits and all sorts of license to do so. So there would be perhaps some sort of collaboration, if you will, with these governments. Mulan could have chosen any other country to film it, but they chose specifically an area when millions of people are detained. In addition to that, the lead actress as well as the producer even supported the police, Hong Kong police, that oppress the democracy movement in Hong Kong. It's one thing to be silent, but proactively supporting police violence against these young people in Hong Kong street protesting for their freedom, for the rule of law, for freedom of speech that we value in democratic countries. I think, we, at the end of the day, we have to say, which side are we going to be on? Are we going to choose to watch a movie because, it's a Disney movie. It was filmed in a country that contains people in open air prison and in these concentration camps. And then when actresses or actors are proactively supporting police violence against people. And in addition to that, in terms of brand awareness, H&M, I think because of public pressure, decided to end all its sourcing with Xinjiang region. So that shows consumers, we have a saying, we can make a positive impact. We can make changes, bring about change. Any like Zara, I want people to go in and talk to the manager. I heard that, the textile of cotton, it's sourced in this region and there was a use of forced labor. What do you say about that? So I want people to do that. And I want everybody to be very much aware of all these brands, over 80 brands, who are they, and knock on doors.
What message would you give to China and the Chinese officials who have locked up your brother? What would you tell them?
Nobody asked me this question. It's incredibly painful for me each time to sit in front of camera and putting my brother's picture, presenting a human face of these mass atrocities and genocide. I want this to be over. Now, I wish we lived in a world, instead of talking about genocide, we could build innovation. We can better the world in so many other ways. We can use technology for better use. But instead, here I am talking about, my brother's arbitrary detention, in forced disappearance. And I cannot imagine what he's going through. I want the Chinese government to prove he's alive. I want to meet him immediately. I want them to free him. He's innocent like millions of other people. And I want the Chinese government to cease its repression for once and all. Don't hide yourself behind this euphemism of re-education or vocational training schools. Nobody is buying it, and it's actually hurting the Chinese government's global reputation. And if you're smart about it, now it's time to mitigate the injustice and the repression and start working on and rebuilding your image and make sure that all the victims are compensated and start healing the people who are the victims of concentration camps.
I can't imagine how painful it must be to relive this every time and speak about these atrocities that happened to your brother. Please make sure to listen to these words and respond. I'd like to say again, a massive thank you to both of you. So please make sure to subscribe, and thank you very much, and goodbye.